ElbowGate, Caleche Gate, Smoking Gate. Are there too many gates? Find out on the podcast. Not quite live from Forget the Box Studios in Montreal. This is the FTB Podcast, the only podcast you're listening to right now. It's that magic time for another podcast. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Jem, and I'm the managing editor at Forget the Box.
Hi, I'm Josh. I write about food at Forget the Box.
And I'm your host, Jason C. McLean. You can also read me on Forget the Box. Hey, there's a lot of FTB going around on May the 29th, Sunday evening when we're recording this. And, you know, for a while I was obsessed with the U.S. primaries. I thought nothing could distract me politically. I mean, I was aware of the fact that there was somebody named Justin Trudeau who was our prime minister. I was aware of the fact that the NDP had lost in the last election and I had voted for them. I was aware that there was still some government going on in Canada, but all the interest, all my focus was on feeling the burn and whether or not Hillary was going to screw him over or whether Trump was actually going to get in. And nothing could possibly distract me Canadian-wise from this. And then this happened.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau landed in hot political water when he tried to physically move proceedings along in the House of Commons. The House was scheduled to vote on speeding up debate on the government's controversial assisted dying legislation, Bill C-16. The NDP, in protest, decided to block Conservative Whip's path to the Speaker of the House of Commons in order to slow down the vote. Seeing this, Trudeau left his seat, entered the fray, and pulled the whip beyond the NDP members. In the process, he elbowed NDP MP Ruth Ellen Besseau in the chest. Trudeau then returned and got into a shouting match with NDP leader Thomas Mulcair. Trudeau later apologized.
I want to take the opportunity now that the member is okay to return to the House right now to be able to express directly to her my apologies for my behavior and my actions unreservedly. The opposite member Whip was being impeded in his progress. I took it upon myself to go and assist him forward, which was I now see unadvisable as a course of actions and resulted in physical contact in this House that we can all accept was unacceptable. And I apologize for that unreservedly, and I look for opportunities to make amends directly to the member and to any members who feel negatively impacted by this exchange and intervention, because I take responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Trudeau apologized several more times, though the NDP demanded that he be held accountable for what happened to the MP. The House discussed the matter for 5 hours the following day. The incident, which became known as ElbowGate, exploded on social media, and for a brief time, Besseau was the recipient of online hate, and some posters claiming she was faking and took a dive. On Tuesday, an all-party parliamentary committee announced that they would not pursue the matter.
Wow, our Prime Minister getting a little rough and rowdy in Parliament, trying to pull the parliamentary whip out of a little bit of a log jam, and then accidentally elbowing, I think we can call it an accident, accidentally elbowing NDP MP Ruth Ellen Besseau.
Yeah.
Now, my take on this is that, well, first of all, Trudeau was out of line in doing this. I mean, you have a problem, you want things to move along, you don't jump over the bench or run up and physically do it yourself. You get maybe the sergeant at arms to do, or someone else in Parliament to take care of it. Or maybe you get some MPs say, hey, you want some spotlight? Go be a bit of a dick and pull someone out. So he clearly was out of line. But I think the NDP really handled it wrong too. Namely by focusing on what Ruth Ellen, on the quote-unquote injury to Besseau. I'm sure it hurt. I'm sure getting elbowed in the breast is painful. I'm a guy, but the other elbowing in the other place is pretty painful too. So I'm sure it is painful, but I think instead of focusing on that, they should have focused on the fact that what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, essentially, what led up to this, it was a bill. There was a bill on assisted dying, but that's not what the NDP were protesting. They actually they're neutral on that.
Yeah.
They're allowing their members to vote their conscience on that. What they were upset with was the fact that Trudeau was trying to ram it through and limit discussion.
Yeah, and it's a really important thing. It's of all the things to limit discussion, it's the last type of bill you want to rush.
Yeah.
And I think that came across poorly, and you're right. He didn't even need to because the NDP...
Yeah.
I mean, there was no need to so
they
it
were
sort of blew up, and it all became about the wrong things. And it was sort of sad because the topic of the national debate, I think, for the weeks after, should have been about that bill. I mean, it's a very significant thing, and it deserves people really thinking about it, not just MPs, but like all of us.
Yeah, instead people were...
Instead we were just so distracted by it. I mean, I was out of it, so I sort of only saw it happen a few days after. And I didn't even know that that's the session it happened.
What people were talking about. Yeah.
So,
but I mean,
that's a shame.
But I think the thing is that they could have easily focused on the fact that, look, he's trying to ram things through Parliament. Look at him ramming himself through and grabbing the Conservative whip. But instead, he decided to... they decided to make it all about, oh my God, he hit a woman, and he apologized, so he was able to dismiss that, and that dismissed it. And I think they came across looking almost just as bad as him.
Yeah. And there was some yelling with Mulcair and stuff.
Oh yeah, well after that he went back and he started yelling at Tom Mulcair, and it just looked ridiculous. And even John Oliver made fun of it.
Oh really?
yeah, he was making fun of it. But the whole thing, he was making fun of the fact that Trudeau's elbow wasn't that big a thing, and it wasn't that big a thing. Yeah. And by keeping it on the hot burner, making it a big thing, is distracting from their original point. And Trudeau even completely removed that from the table.
Yeah.
Remove the pushing things through Parliament from the table.
Right. Well, Jason, that's the thing with gates, It's when something becomes a gate, we just lose track of the bigger story, and which is fine in the case of Watergate, as I was thinking about this week and writing a little thing, or some of the earlier ones, they had a certain gravitas, but as the years have gone on, they become more and more just like absurd. And but they're still a gate, so they're this big deal, and then like we focus all of our attention. And we had my favorite was Donut Gate. At least this may have been not quite as bad as the Donut Gate, which was Ariana Grande licking the donuts.
Yes. Josh, by the way, is a food writer, and a few weeks ago he reported.
At least we haven't sunk, but in Canada we seem to be obsessed with this gate thing. It keeps going on and on.
Which is an American invention.
Which the Americans seem to have let go a little bit.
Watergate was the original one. Yeah,
Watergate. There's a bunch.
That wasn't
the Clintons.
That was like the name of the hotel where everything went down.
That actually was called Watergate.
So that was the gate.
Right. So
it wasn't like a suffix.
Even more exactly, but that's what started it, I believe. Yeah. And so even more legitimacy was an actual place. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the actual
nothing
name.
To do with anything.
But then what was every scandal started? But you argued in your article that the American Gate, they stopped it after Guac Gate.
It seemed like, how can you get more ridiculous, right? And even the politicians got together on that. Obama and Jeb Bush. At the time, he was sort of the early front runner, if you can call it that. But the headline was Bush and Obama unite, so it seemed like a big deal. And so like they thought you can't go any further after that. You can't these gates. That's it. And in Canada, since then, it's like ramped up because we had like the P Gate. Remember with the MP in the coffee cup
during the election. A member of Parliament, Conservative MP, was running for re-election, or was he even an MP at the time, or was he just running to be an MP?
Oh, I think he was running to be an MP.
And there's a video of when he used to do home repair, and he pissed in someone's cup. Which is bad in general, but this wasn't even his cup. It was the owner of the house's cup, homeowner's cup, and then
and it was on a CBC Marketplace.
And he just like sort of rinsed it. Did he at least soap it out? Did he at least
he did a rinse.
He did a little rinse. And
that was on John Oliver. Caught that one too.
Yes. He
did a little rinse. And then there was the one I forgot was immediately after, which was at the time almost as big as this, was Hairgate, which was Margaret Atwood, who got that article censored by the National Post.
Oh, because she was talking about Trudeau's hair.
It was a really big deal at the time. Somebody's hair. I don't even know. I think it was Trudeau's hair. And she was being very funny and like witty and whatever. And they tried to censor her or something in the National Post. In this article, they redacted it all, and then it became this big deal, and people were calling it Hairgate. I forgot about it, but when I look back, I realized that was actually another massive distraction.
Speaking of distractions, the craziness in Parliament, Jem, you're not originally from Montreal, but have you seen European parliaments? You've followed European parliaments a lot. Have you seen?
To some extent, yeah.
Have you seen You've seen craziness like that in European parliaments, right?
Well, I don't know how much you could consider Turkey to be Europe because it is a very contentious topic to begin with, but there are brawls that happen often in Turkish parliament, and I'm not just saying people getting accidentally elbowed, but rather getting punched in the face.
Right.
And
they don't call it punchgate. It's just
no,
like
they
a
don't
thing.
call it punchgate.
It's
We just
politics.
look at it and just like.
But this is this run of the mill. It happens all the time. Like in Britain, that happens too a number of times. I've seen it happen a lot of times where people maybe not get into fisticuffs, but I've seen brawls. Japanese Parliament. I honestly thought the United States would get here first before Canada.
Yeah, you would think.
And if this had happened in Canada, in the States, I don't think it would have been called a gate.
No.
I think it would have just been like, oh my God, they're crazy.
Yeah.
But
maybe a little more.
But in Canada, we have a gate just when our members of Parliament are caught horsing around. And horses have actually been pretty contentious in Montreal, in particularly Caleche horses. Hannah Besseau has this report.
There will no longer be a one-year moratorium on caleches in the old Montreal after all. Mayor Denis Coderre had originally banned horse-drawn carriages, a popular tourist attraction, after a public outcry over the welfare of the horses. This was amplified by photos and videos surfacing of the horses falling down due to heat, and in more than one case being hit by a car.
There's a difference between saying no more and a moratorium. Means that we will do the proper way, we'll take the right decision.
Caleche drivers have received an injunction from the Quebec Superior Court permitting them to work until June 3rd. Instead of facing another injunction, Coderre decided to lift the moratorium outright and take steps to create new laws for the next year.
So you can take a Caleche in Old Montreal.
For the next year,
Has anyone here ever rode in a Caleche?
No.
No.
Not in Montreal.
Not in Montreal.
Yeah.
Has anyone here ever wanted to ride in a Caleche in Montreal?
No. It's odd when you live here, you forget that they kind of exist.
Yeah.
And then when you visit, it's the first thing a lot of people bring up or mention.
But I honestly, for me, it's like
At least Americans.
I don't understand why somebody would want to have. I mean, I guess it's old school, romantic, whatever. But the whole idea is, some animals working without being paid. The driver's being paid, but the animal's working without being paid to like shuttle you around the old port, and it seems like incredibly decadent.
Yeah. I was associated it more with Quebec City for some weird reason. Where does anyone know if it's happening there as well or no?
I don't know.
Or is this a worldwide movement, or is this just something in Montreal?
Well, the reason I'm not sure about other places, but the reason why it took off in Montreal, this movement against Caleches, is because there have been people who have been against them for decades, for a while, and been protesting. But because of thanks to the internet, actually, there was a video last year of a Caleche, a horse basically just in the extreme heat, like falling down, passing out in the street. That video circulated. More recently, there was a video of a car knocking into a horse.
Oh, wow.
Like on the streets, because there are cars that drive on these streets too, and maybe not in the cobblestones, but like these Caleches have to get back to their stable, which is in Griffintown somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's more and more of these images of how this is very hard on the horses, and how this is basically for animal welfare. Like it's horrible for the welfare of the horses, and that's where this is coming from. Now, the other side of the coin is there are Caleche drivers,
Right.
and there are people who have been like, this is their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
This is something they've been doing for all their lives, and they don't necessarily know how else to do it. And you're basically taking an industry. Basically, the way you see it is, I'm not sure they don't think they've said it like this, but I'm sure they're seeing like a bunch of hipsters with cell phones are taking videos, and they're losing their livelihood over it. Like,
I mean, I believe that is like a very valid counter argument. I mean, on the one hand, we have to care about animal welfare because they are, living beings too, and we have to care about how they work. But then again, you cannot just ask a person to just stop doing what they do for a living and find another job, because like finding a job to begin with is a difficult thing in this day and economy. So you cannot just ban these people from doing the only thing that they know in terms of how to bring themselves some money.
Right.
but what if the only thing somebody knows how to do is work a guillotine, and you ban capital punishment? I mean, is that the same? I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, I'll admit.
That is a bit of a stretch indeed.
But if you think about it like logically, I mean, is it really a good enough argument that compared to what the whole okay, what if now, I mean, I personally eat meat, but like I've seen there's horrible conditions in like slaughterhouses, like with some poultry and stuff like that. And what if that's the only job someone has, but what they're doing is incredibly cruel? I mean, where do you draw the line?
Well, in terms of like eating animals, for instance, so one of the arguments that I've heard on the internet regarding like veganism, going full vegan and like no, not eating animal products and stuff like that. One of the counter arguments for veganism is that it is not necessarily a very affordable lifestyle for everyone, because at times it is much easier to get meat because price of pork is like relatively cheap. It's easier to get, easier to acquire. But when you want to do like a full vegan lifestyle, it requires a lot of change that not everyone can afford, especially if you want to get organic. It's always a more expensive lifestyle. And in that regard, then the question can become, on the one hand, you have survival of a human being by eating another animal, and on the other hand, you have the animal's right to live. So there is a kind of needs-based argument in both sides happening for veganism. But when it comes to Caleches, you do not need to have a horse ride in old Montreal.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And one thing too is, I'm like, yeah, it's like it's not necessarily necessary. It's something that's the only thing these people know how to do. But I mean, another thing that came up is the idea of what's going to become of the horses. Like, I think there was an interview with one Caleche driver saying, "Oh, he's going to have to put his horse down if he can." And that was maybe an intimidation tactic, but
it might be. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, and older
Yeah.
horses are not, if that's what they've been doing their whole life. I mean, they don't have a lot of value.
I mean, could the city pay these people to care for the horses in the country or something like that? Or
They could. Are they going to though? I don't
Horse
know.
retirement
I
houses?
can't see that.
A retirement stable.
That would be a nice outcome, because there's the area in Griffintown, which is kind of historic. That's the one part of this that I thought would be not sad, but it would be a changing of an era, like everything in Griffintown, where just this past gets erased, and there's this whole area where it's like very wild, and these horses are living. Sometimes I think the people are even living there, and it's sort of half the time, and it's right in the middle of the city, and it's just very odd. And I'm assuming that would just go away very quickly and become condos. So, but at least if they could maybe, keep some of the horses there as a little commemoration, let the horses keep living.
Yeah.
And then maybe the city kick in some money, make it like a official.
Yeah, it's a tourist
No,
thing.
something you
Another
can't build
tourist
over
thing,
or
yeah.
whatever, just like a block or something, block of the city.
Yeah, like a stable. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I guess maybe that's the thing. That's the problem too. Is when Coderre and the city administration decided to ban Caleches, they did it because of for logical reasons, because of these videos and because of public outcry, but they didn't have a backup plan. They didn't really have. I don't think they really had a plan in place as to what to actually do with the horses.
Exactly.
And they moved quite quickly, from what I recall.
Yeah.
Considering how slow they are on some other things, they kind of charged ahead.
So maybe they'll come up with something for next year.
Maybe, which
I
will
don't know.
help prevent another lawsuit, maybe, or stalling, or
Yeah. But I mean, I think just the simple argument that like in this case, there's other industry. Like, I mean, if you're like if you're because prison guards have a strong union and make a lot of money, is that a reason to have more prisons?
Yeah, no, as Jem said, it's never that black and white. I mean,
It's never that black and white. Yeah, it's
and
it's
and animals do work. I mean, it's not like we stop all animals from working. Throughout human history, animals have worked. That's part of what animals do. Just like we eat animals, it's not as simple.
But
to
is
say
that
to
right?
Stop eating animals.
Yeah. Well,
Is it
eating
right, is it
is
wrong?
different.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
the
there's
thing,
a right or-
thing
I
is,
mean,
eating again. You said it's for
more
food.
about the humanity of how.
Eating is to stay alive. Humans need to
Well,
eat
for a
something.
long time, animals working was to stay alive too.
Yeah, but now not anymore. Now the road is filled with cars which exhale a lot of exhaust.
Yeah, in the city, no. I was thinking more for agriculture.
You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the now the road is filled with cars exhaling exhaust into the air, polluting the air, and that is still not changing. But one thing you can't exhaust is cigarette smoke on terraces. Hannah Besseau has this report.
Smoking on a bar or restaurant terrace is now a finable offense in Quebec. The Couillard government's Bill 44 came into effect last Thursday, making it illegal to smoke on terraces, in a car with someone under 16 years old, and in common areas of most apartment buildings and near playground, elementary schools, or high schools. Vaping now falls under the same laws as cigarette smoking. Fines increase with the number of offenses and range from $500 to $25,000 for businesses and from $250 to $1,500 for individual smokers.
So, is this a cash grab? The government imposing huge fines for smoking on terraces, for the establishment that lets people smoke on the terrace, for the smoker themselves, for somebody in their car who passed by and didn't call it in on their cell phone.
There's a hotline.
There's a hotline, yeah.
Barbaric smoking practices.
Something to that effect. Yeah. Now, My personal kind of view on this is when they passed the ban smoking indoors makes sense. I mean, that's for secondhand. I know there was a big fight, and all the bar owners said that, oh, come on, it's not like it's going to kill our business, and it did, because a lot of the bars actually that used to allow smoking lost a bunch of business because their places actually started smelling. People realized that they smelled because they couldn't have this smell of smoke distracting anything. But this is outside. Now, a restaurant, I totally understand. Who wants to eat next to somebody who's smoking? A bar, certain bars, maybe they don't choose to do it. I think the bars should be on their own volition. If bars are choosing to do it, some bars do it already. They don't encourage it, or they frown on it, or they don't allow it. But to make a blanket ban, some dive bar where everyone smokes in the terrace, now people are going to walk out onto the street. I remember they interviewed the person who ran Mad Hatters saying their younger clientele is going to walk off with their beers, which actually might be the case.
More money for the government.
Yeah,
because they'll get extra tickets.
Yeah, it's not just that. There's a ban on. They're now treating vaping like smoking. It's banned all the same places as smoking. Now, vaping might be bad to the vapor. Studies are still out on that, but it's not there's no secondhand smoke, so there's no real public health risk of that. Right. And also banning smoking. They're not banning it in parks. What they're banning it is next to, like, within 9 meters or 9 feet of a playground for kids or something.
Doesn't that already exist though? Like the 9 feet law or something like that?
Yeah, for certain buildings have it.
Certain buildings, but now it's like within a place where children are playing or something like that.
Okay.
So that's how they got the park thing, because a lot of parks have kids' playgrounds in it and stuff like that. Now, but the thing is, they're actually targeting individuals. The other smoking ban was just the establishment that had to pay the fine. Right.
Yeah, one thing I find interesting of the timing, I agree with you on your points, your rationale behind it. The timing's funny because Montreal, I mean, there's more and more, they've moved to more terraces being built than permits being granted in the past few years. There's so many. And the new style of the city granting them is on the street.
Yeah.
So they're not just outside the building, pushed up against the building like most cities with the tables. It's on the other side of the sidewalk, right in the street.
Yeah.
So what you're going to get now, people can't smoke there right out in the road. They're going to end up smoking on the sidewalk, I'd imagine. Come out and smoke. So you'll be in between the patrons on both sides, which is the worst place you could have the smoker, because the smoke will just go everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the people.
But they're banning it within 9 feet. I think that's really to push people. That's not really for the people with the front terraces that are connected to the building. I think that maybe the law of that is to push people away from the actual entrance. But it's still on the sidewalk.
House or something. I mean.
So basically just need to go in the middle of the road and dodge cars while smoking. Yeah. So it's also exercise as well. Maybe they had that.
True.
But there's another fine for that, for going into the middle of the road.
I'm
pretty sure that was. Maybe that's more. Unless it's part of a bylaw P6. Smoker protest against bylaw
Highway Code 500.1, which they start using. That's a different topic, though.
That's not the smoking ban. Although I could see the two of them merging somehow. I mean, the thing is, basically it's a cash grab, and it's a way that, like, because you don't want to make a politician against it, because they're for smoking in front of children. Although having somebody smoke on the sidewalk, there's a bigger chance that a kid will be right next to them than in a bar.
Yeah. It's the sidewalk thing. I don't know the rules about the buildings here. I don't know. You were talking about McGill, actually. Some buildings do have a specific law, 9 meters,
so
public building.
In the issue with McGill is that there's a McLean library, which has like a terrace in front of it, like a long corridor kind of thing, and then there's like a stairway that goes under it, like a tunnel that basically goes towards McTavish. And smoking is banned on the terrace, but you can smoke inside that underpass. Well, it's basically like a weird thing, and like students basically hate that ban because the arguments that I've heard were basically all about their like mental well-being. Just imagine like students during finals, and they're like very stressed, and the only thing that will make them feel a little bit better is a cigarette. But it's raining outside, and you're not allowed to just smoke in that underpass, so you need to go past that onto McTavish under the rain. And another argument was basically, this is not a government sanction, but this was McGill trying to do, which is like, let's no more smoking on campus kind of thing. And basically, the students are like very angry at the fact that it's like a very paternalistic way of looking at things. Just who is McGill to decide whether or not someone can smoke? Was the argument. And also, like, based on that mental health approach, the argument is that you cannot just say do not smoke anymore without providing resources for these people to cope with the withdrawal, or like they might not want to quit in the first place.
So they'll just get pushed out, as we said, with the bars onto a street somewhere else, which will cause
Yeah, so like
someone else to be pissed off at
there
them.
must be other ways of, accommodating smokers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
Although we are one of the last in Canada. I mean, the rest of the provinces, this is like old news. I mean, they've had much even stricter bans, I think, for years.
Well, I
now.
remember Ontario used
So
to have one where
it's-
you could smoke on the terrace unless it was covered. So they would have these like weird workarounds and stuff like that. But like, are you
I
saying
don't
that in
think
Ontario you
anymore.
can't even?
No, I could be wrong, but I think it's totally over there. And I don't know all of Canada, but I always thought
I'm wondering how like this will obviously affect businesses. This I'm not so much in terms of people not going, but people like deciding to jump onto the people like stealing drinks, or people just like causing a nuisance on the sidewalk. I mean, sometimes you don't want the drunks on the sidewalk, right?
No,
like
no,
don't.
yeah.
it's no. I mean, it seems like it's just a bad idea that nobody politically is opposing.
Yeah.
And
That's a good question. So no one is opposing it?
Well,
Is it
well,
like
it's
a
it's law.
unanimous thing?
I don't
It's
think.
law,
I think
yeah.
most parties in the Quebec legislature, in the Assemblée Nationale, the Liberals proposed it. I'm pretty sure the PQ supported it. Quebec Solidaire supported it. Like,
It's just politically weird to say yes to smoking to some
yeah,
extent.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because, like,
It
we
puts
have this
people in an
entire
impossible-
industry of anti-smoking ads and stuff like that happening.
I would understand it more if cigarettes were illegal, and then you just ban them everywhere. It'd be like joints. People would have to go sneak them. That would make a lot more sense than allowing the product to be legal, but severely limiting where people can consume it.
Yeah, that's always been the contradiction for sure. And they make so much money on it. They don't want it to be illegal. I mean,
Yeah, so it's
so-
a cash grab left, right, and center. And the fact that a lot of people don't see it that way, they just see it as a health thing,
Right.
is I think that's just messaging. And I think the thing is, this law it's the law now. No
Yeah.
one's going to launch a big stink against it, and then they're going to make a bunch of money. And then I don't know what the world's going to. It's just the sidewalks are going to be packed with smokers, or some bars are going to allow it and then get away with the rules. Get away,
maybe, yeah. Maybe some of those back terraces might get away with it for a while because they're
hidden. But those are the ones
from
those are the ones where people are really going to want to, because they have to
Yeah.
go through the bar out to
Through
the
the
street
bar.
otherwise. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if this could work here, but like the establishment could just like add the fee, like the fee, like what's the word I'm looking for? The fine. They could just like add the fine to their
The cost
operating
of doing
budget,
business, yeah.
Yeah.
no.
and then just like let people smoke anyway.
But
That's
the
what
thing is, the
happens in
fine goes
Turkey.
up. After the first time, there's a big fine. Then there's an even bigger. Then eventually, we're talking in the thousands of dollars.
fine.
Well,
So-
maybe if they let smokers in, that might boost their business and then
True.
kinda, cut the costs.
But if they
Yeah,
give three
yeah.
fines in one, if they catch each individual person smoking, and if they're also
Yeah.
targeting the individual smoker this time, you said, right?
Yeah, so there's 500 to 12,000 something, 500, and then
That's for the establishment.
Yeah,
but
and then as a smoker, you get the fine, so it's
that,
double.
so then people that
cash.
see, that was something I didn't realize, that kind of defeats the whole making it part of the
Right.
cost of business, because are they going to cover the fees of the individual smokers too? Like, how much money is this pitcher of beer that there's? I know it's like 17 cents for a pitcher, and they're selling it for $10, but $12
Well, then the
bucks.
question is, how do they enforce this? Let's say the establishment allows smoking, and let's say that the establishment pays the fines for this.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to find the individuals? Are they going to have like police officers watching whether or not
They're gonna
people are
have they're gonna have
smoking?
cops going in. They might have undercover people.
They
They
might.
might have undercover cops. If it's a big cash grab like this, they definitely
Could
might
be an
have.
interesting job though. Just you get paid
Yeah.
by the SPVM to drink at a bar
Yeah.
and watch whether
And
people
watch.
are smoking.
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
lovely person you were striking up a conversation with lights a cigarette, and you have to report them, and then you're
Handcuffs come out.
Handcuffs come out, and it's a bad way to start
That's
a
just
relationship.
weird.
Like,
We always talk about how the government should not legislate on people's bodies.
Yeah.
But when it comes to smoking, people are like, sometimes, okay, like, if a person wants to smoke, that's their own conscious
yeah,
choice.
if it's
And
in enclosed space, fine, you're affecting others. But if it's outside,
yeah, like if you
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it is a legitimate, I get the health thing totally
Yeah.
inside. I mean, that's just, you can't.
But outside,
you
yeah,
argue that,
it's
but-
just-
I do get migraines whenever I smell smoke.
Mm.
So, but like I'm an extreme case, like I'm aware of that. It's not going to affect everyone the same way.
No, but that's a good point. I mean, even outside, so someone's like sort of nearby. and
Yeah,
you
like
smell
if I
it.
get like that weird
Well, then that's
smoke,
maybe a
then-
case where it is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but like I don't want a law to be passed just for my
For you,
sake.
yeah,
know?
right.
That's not how laws should work.
Yeah, I used to be the only kid in my school with a peanut allergy, but that was before it was like a big thing. I don't know. It was just you had a peanut allergy, and now it's like
Well, a
they've
peanut
created
allergy
laws.
can kill you, though. My
I know, but a
migraines
lot
don't
of things
necessarily kill me.
And I guess I'm happy now that these kids have some protection for their peanut allergies.
Yeah.
But it's like it was one thing amongst many. A lot of things could kill a lot of kids, and
And you didn't
this
die.
became the thing they created all these laws around. No, and I never died. I mean, it was pretty bad one too. But so you're
We're
right.
still here.
Almost like you don't want it to be created just around this little stupid thing that you happen to be, you know.
But that's, I mean,
where does it end?
That's the law, and now we have our community calendar, and I like to make a point that all of the shows listed in the community calendar are non-smoking events.
Thursday, 9 p.m. at Sala Rosa, join the Howl Arts Collective for some music from the Golden Quartet, Interpret 10, Freedom Summers, Jason Sharp, Kevin Lowe, and Tanya Evanson. That's 9 p.m. at Sala Rosa. Saturday, 1:30 p.m. at Jean-Mance Park is the Clapback Session number 6, Baywatch Part 2. Baywatch, in other words, a discussion about Lemonade by Beyoncé, is back by popular demand. The session is going to unpack the visual album chapter by chapter, track by track, and consider the socio-political and historical context from which it emerged and implications for millennial fans, viewers, and listeners. Thursday, June 9th, Studio XX presents The X-Files. Studio XX will celebrate their 20th anniversary of the XX-Files radio show by setting up a radio show in their studio hosted by current XX-Files team. Join Studio XX as they celebrate 2 decades of radio. June 9th to June 18th, as part of the Montreal Fringe Festival, is Enough Already, a play by the very talented Corey Hodgson. The play tackles the topic of chronic pain through a character named Mia.
And now it's time for predictions.
I predict that Oshiaga will finally give Forget the Box media accreditation this year.
I predict that within 6 years, there will be an official Caleche Museum of Montreal.
I predict that after getting through an entire podcast without talking about the U.S. primaries, I'm going to go home and binge watch some Bernie speeches.
I predict that now that it turns out that Captain America was a Hydra sleeper agent all along, I predict that in the next upcoming comics, it will turn out that Iron Man, Tony Stark, was a communist all along.
I predict that Stephen Harper's first job, now that he's leaving politics, will be on the as Trump's VP pick.
And I predict that Denis Coderre will reverse his decision once again on the Caleche ban when it's discovered that the backseat of a Caleche is the one place where people can still smoke. So that's our podcast. You can read both Jem and Josh here at forgetthebox.net, me as well too. And I want to end a little, as we all heard that Gord Downie, the lead singer of the Tragically Hip, has terminal brain cancer, but he's going on one more tour. I'm going to make a point of getting it. One of the greatest lyricists in Canadian history, one of the greatest live performers, period. Thanks, Gord, and you're going to rock this summer. See you next time on the next podcast. The FTB podcast by the Forget the Box Media Collective in Montreal was hosted by Jason C. McLean and produced by Hannah Besseau. For daily, unique, original content covering news, music, politics, arts, lifestyles, food, film, you name it, we've got it. Check out Forget the Box.